Oh, the awkward silence and the heckling. I went to my first Portland comedy club last night and it was quite the experience. Let me tell you about it. Follow me. So, last night, a group of my friends and I, along with my boyfriend, walked over to Helium Comedy Club. It's this comedy joint in Portland, just outside of downtown. Really cool spot. The employees at the venue, super nice, great deals, and the rosemary fries, by the way, yeah, you nailed it. Anywho, we went there just to kind of scope out talent in this city. A couple of my friends and myself are dipping our toes into the comedy world. I consider myself a comedian of sorts. However, I've never really done stand-up. I've gone to a ton of stand-ups. Never really done it. It's not exactly my forte. I want to write or, be in charge of creating a sitcom or a movie or write scripts or something. I want to do something else, not exactly be on stage. However, going to this and experiencing what a stand-up comedian has to go through, I started to realize that you have to do it this way. It's kind of like if you write music and you want to start writing for popular artists, you may have to sing your own stuff originally to get it out there so that the people hear it. And I think comedy is the same way. If you want your voice heard, if you want your material heard, you have to do it. Unless you want to write for another comic, but then I'm just like giving somebody my glory. So I do want to start looking at doing stand-up and all that hoopla. But going last night was such a trip because I think I actually learned more from the people who bombed or the people who bombed and then recovered rather than learning from the people who did awesome, because the ones who did awesome are just in their flow. Like, they know what they're doing. They know how to captivate and control the audience. Super easy. Like, this is pretty basic stuff if you want to get into comedy. It's just audience control. Like, you have to engage, keep their attention, and if they start to drift off, acknowledge it, because otherwise this awkwardness builds. And that's kind of one of the best stories from last night. This dude comes out on stage, and he's one of the later performers. So at first, it's open mic night. So they have about 15 to 20 amateurs go, all pretty good, all held their own. A couple, sank, some swam, but it was fun to watch, and nobody, pissed anyone out. There was no, crazy comedian, right? So we're watching all these people, and then this dude comes out when it starts to be more of the regulars, like the people that the club actually books to come in case amateurs don't show up or the night's boring. So he comes on stage, and he starts off by saying, I contacted the manager of Helium, told him I wanted to try out a new bit coming up. He booked me for tonight, and I have to let you all know, I'm sorry, but I didn't write the bit. It was really weird, so we were like, okay, are you gonna leave the stage? Like, he was really just telling us he didn't write anything. But then, almost as if he was having a conversation with himself, it just led into the bit that he wrote via a voice coming from an audio prompter that he was controlling with a little clicker in his hand. It was the weirdest experience. Like, he clicked it, and the dude in the audio would talk. And then I think he was nervous, so he clicked it too many times, and it would go faster than he wanted. And it was a mess, messy. So if you're going to use props in your act, make sure you've practiced them. Because, like he said at the beginning, it's a bit that he hadn't done in front of people, so he was unaware if it was going to work. It didn't, okay? Crowd turned on him. Now, get it straight, we live in Portland, nobody's gonna voice their vocals. This isn't a throwback to 90s Manhattan or playing at the Apollo. Nobody's getting booed, although I wish that were still a legit thing. If a comedian's bad, I don't understand why we can't boo. I totally understand we want to respect them working and honing in their craft, but that's how you learn. You learn when something doesn't work with a crowd, when the crowd reacts. So that's just my opinion. If I were doing a show and the audience was so bored they were taking that time to check their cell phones, I'd rather have them boo me. I'd rather be booed than everybody be bored on their cell phone and all I see is a light of lit up cell phones. To me, that would break me. But the hardest part about this dude's act was he had a line in it where the audio was like, why are you trying to be a comedian? You're gonna bore everybody. And before he could say his comedic sentence retort, some guy in the audience was like, yeah, already there, dude. Enough for him to hear it, and that actually killed, because I was like, oh, he's halfway through this awful bit, which he should have jumped ship on, granted. But he was halfway through, he still had to do it, and I'll give him credit, he powered through. He heard the guy, you saw it in his face, he was totally defeated, but he powered through and did it. I don't know if in that moment I would just say fuck it and give up on it and be like, I'm sorry I wasted your time, and then go into other material. I think that's what I would do, but he fucking took it. He went down with the ship. Okay. But right after him was actually my favorite performer. It was this girl. I don't remember her name, but she comes out and everything's fine, but her joke starts with, I want to shave my body completely and start over. Like, she says it like that, and the first time, okay. Then she says it again. I want to completely shave my body and start over. And right after she said it the second time, a guy in the audience was like, I want to shave your entire body and start you over. And that ensued the weirdest conversation between a comedian and an audience member. However, she did handle it really well. I thought her stopping the show, because at first she was really dumbfounded. She didn't expect anybody to say anything back, which I think that is where I'm learning. You just have to get ready, because the audience wants to be a part of your act. They want to be involved, not necessarily to mess you up. I'm sure the same with, singers and artists and stuff like that. People just want to connect with you while you're performing your art, right? So he interjected, and I don't think he meant to be overly sexist or anything. I think he was trying to add to the joke, but she took it a different way. And she stopped and she was like, oh man, I'm going to have to go super TED Talks right now. And then the audience was like, what are you talking about? And she started not scolding the dude, but calling him out and being like, why do you think that was okay for you to say to me? Like, that's not okay. I'm not up here for you to objectify. And there I was torn. Because she kind of is. Because if you're a comedian, you're supposed to A, have really thick skin, and B, a part of the job is to be able to handle that live criticism, and how you retaliate is kind of the showmanship of whether you're worthy or not to be a good comedian, in my mind. I mean, I just think you have to roll with those punches. And other comedians were up there doing it equally, if not better. So, I mean, she didn't really have an excuse to fall back on, hey, don't interrupt my show. But after he did it, he never spoke again, so I really don't think he was trying to antagonize her. But she went into this diatribe explaining how she was offended by that. And I actually was really impressed with how she did it, because she kept it funny. Her only problem was that she couldn't get past the fact that he interrupted her joke with what she deemed as a sexist remark. So she lost her whole set. After that joke, she kind of fumbled along, but still being funny, but then she kept going back to say how her whole spot was ruined just because he interjected with the comment. Now, I totally get it, and I get being up there, like if somebody screamed faggot, I'd be like, oh, cool, I have to deal with a crowd like this in my head. But exterior, I'd be like, what you need, right? Like, roll with that shit. I mean, you cannot be offended by everything, especially if you're a performance artist, especially if you're a comedian. Because honestly, maybe I'm partial, but I think comedians need to have super thick skin. We're the pioneers of where society wants to take humor, right? Like, if everything's getting too PC, we're all becoming that way, and our comedians are the forefront. Like, we look to them to say, what's appropriate humor? If somebody of high stature can get away with saying it in this way, that means any topic can be funny. How do you make it funny? Any topic, AIDS, rape, anything, incest, all of it can be funny. If you don't make it funny, that's on you. Like, if you attempt to do a joke about a politically incorrect subject, or you're not going to be sensitive about a politically incorrect subject, then have it be funny. Because there were plenty of people going up there being like, I support Trump, and the crowd was expecting them to do a complete nosedive on his campaign or his political beliefs or whatever. But no, they were really just supporting Trump. It was so weird. It was the weirdest experience, I'm telling you. But all in all, I had a great time. I went there with 5-6 other friends. We all had a blast. We were laughing hysterically. When we left, we were kind of talking about our favorites. It was a really cool atmosphere to be a part of. I'm really thankful for comedy clubs, and I just wish as a kid, for my first 21 years, I didn't grow up in a small town, so I would have had the experience of going to these clubs. There was a kid who got on stage for one of his first times, and he was only 19. I give kids like that some credit. That takes balls, and that's just really cool. I wish I would have afforded myself that opportunity. I started going to comedy clubs like 23, 24 years of age, and I used to go to Second City in Chicago. One of my favorite comedy spots of all time. I loved going there and seeing the great SNL comedians who came out of that place. I know the Groundlings is huge in LA. I have so many things I really want to get into, and there's such a great community and a camaraderie between comedians. I mean, I kept watching them come in and out from taking smoke breaks into the building, and they were all saying hi to each other, talking to each other about their acts. I love the community. Shout out and much love to all my fellow comedians. I think you all are fantastic. It takes a huge amount of guts to go on that stage, and it was so fantastic being at Helium and honestly seeing such a diverse group of comedians. You had young, you had old, you had black, you had white, you had Asian, you had men, you had women, and it wasn't just one or two women, it was almost half women. It was amazing. Really funny. I don't stand in the beliefs that a lot of other male comedians do that women aren't funny. I think women are fucking hilarious, and a lot of humor of mine taps into my feminine side. So if you think female comedians are stupid, then you and I, we ain't no tie, right? Okay, anywho, I want to end this video kind of early because it was just an opinion piece about comedy, but please tell me what kind of comedy you like. Do you like the more PC comedy that stays middle of the road and just kind of makes the general audience laugh but doesn't really step on anybody's toes? Or do you like that cutting edge comedy that maybe goes a little too dark or a little too far? Or are you somewhere in the middle, which completely makes sense because anything way too PC and anything way too out there is just too much sometimes? And I totally get it, especially for amateur nights. I think you really do need to learn how to tone in the joke, and I think that's what I'm learning about watching people bomb, honestly. Anyway, add your opinions to comments below and tell me, what do you think of any comedians in your local area? What are some of your favorite spots? And what would you do to encourage anyone wanting to get into a performing arts field, and comedy specific especially? So leave comments below, get a conversation started. Take care of yourself for the rest of the day and continue to laugh on. Peace out.